welcome to Totality Town. Last year, the Western Hemisphere was treated to two beautiful lunar eclipses. We had a supermoon eclipse in May of 2021, and then in November, the moon traveled 97% of its way into the Earth's shadow during what's going to be the longest partial lunar eclipse that we'll see anytime this century. I've got a post-action report video on those two events elsewhere on this channel that you can check out. 2022 is also going to feature two lunar eclipses in May and November, just like last year, only this time they're both going to be total lunar eclipses. And just like last year, the May event is going to be a supermoon eclipse. Or will it? Honestly, this depends on who you listen to. If you look at the different lists of supermoons for 2022, some of those lists include May and some don't. But why the difference? It comes down to how you decide if a full moon is also a supermoon. And there are two main ways that astronomers try to determine this. One is you can compare the distance at the time of the full moon to the moon's long-term average distance from the Earth. Or you can compare the distance at full moon to the near and far points in the moon's current orbit. Because remember, the moon's orbit changes slightly from month to month due to the sun's gravity tugging on it. And to a lesser extent, Jupiter's gravity has an effect as well. Using the first technique is what's always going to give the more conservative results. And the media is going to favor this approach because the math is easier. You don't have to look up as many of the facts or details about the moon's orbital details every month. The short version of the story is that according to the more conservative method, based on that long-term average distance, the total lunar eclipse on May 15th is not going to be a supermoon. But if you base it on the second method and just the moon's current orbit, then yes, it actually is a supermoon eclipse. Let's do a couple of quick comparisons and you can decide how super this lunar eclipse might be. Instead of distances and percentages from Earth, we're going to talk about the angular size of the moon. For those of you who aren't familiar, when astronomers measure how far apart objects appear from each other in the sky, it's called angular distance. And you measure that in degrees, just like 360 degrees in a circle. When we talk about how large an object is as seen from Earth, it's called either the angular diameter or apparent size. But the objects are so small that degrees really aren't the best units to use anymore. You need something smaller. And so astronomers divide 1 degree up into 60 arc minutes. The supermoon eclipse last year, May 21, had an angular diameter of 33.5 arc minutes. One of the reasons the partial lunar eclipse in November of 2021 lasted so long was that the moon only measured 29.9 arc minutes across. This May, the moon will measure 33.2 arc minutes, and then in November, it goes back down to 30.8 arc minutes. Here is how those would all look with each other side by side. And you may not be able to tell a difference with the naked eye, but in a telescope or in photographs, the difference would show up. You can decide what you want to call this one. I honestly don't know whether to call it a supermoon eclipse or not, but I'll bet you $1 that someone online is going to hype it up as a supermoon eclipse. We've had several supermoon eclipses in recent years, but if May 15th and 16th doesn't count, then there isn't another supermoon eclipse on any of the lists until October of 2032. One thing is definite. This is going to be a lot more relaxed event than last year. In May of 21, the whole of lunar totality was only 15 minutes. This May, it's going to be 1 hour and 24 minutes. So that's 5.5 times longer. And all of this is to say that you really don't want to miss this particular total lunar eclipse. So who gets to see it? The night of Sunday, May 15th, viewers in South America definitely win the prize. The entire continent will get to see this lunar eclipse, and the moon will be high in the sky for everyone the whole time. Almost everyone in North America gets to see it as well, but the further west you go and the further north, the lower the moon will be in the sky when the eclipse begins that evening. In the Western Hemisphere, if you are east of the line marked as U3, you will get to see at least a little bit of lunar totality in the evening after the moon rises. The northwestern corner of Canada will only get to see a partial eclipse at best, and Alaskans are going to miss it entirely. Over on the other side of the Atlantic, the story is slightly different. You guys will get to see at least some of the total phase if you are west of the line marked as U2. And that means that some of Western Africa and a little bit of Europe will get to see all of lunar totality before the moon sets in the evening. The exact time of each phase of the lunar eclipse will depend on what time zone you live in. There are a couple ways you can do that. One, you can look up the eclipse's visibility in a planetarium software, like Starry Night, or an app like Sky Safari. And these are helpful because they also tell you exactly where the moon's going to be in the sky. If you only need a more basic reference, you can use the eclipse map tool at timeanddate.com to click on your location on a map, and you can get the exact times that way. You'll find that tool linked over in the show notes. That does it for this episode of Totality Town. Make sure you get out and enjoy the total lunar eclipse on the night of May 15th, morning of the 16th. I've got a bunch more eclipse previews and videos coming up soon, so please make sure you subscribe to the Totality Town YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me. Look forward to seeing you next time.